All right, Yana, we're back in studio. Welcome back, everyone, to the Agents Confidential podcast, our 5th episode.
So fun.
Our topic today, though, is a little frustrating for me. I don't know if there's any other men out there that have some challenges being an active listener. As I was doing some prep, Yana, for this, the whole like mindfulness and things like that is like, I feel like some of these terms now are just because there's so many distractions, right? We have our phones and our computers and our smart watches and our whoops and all these things updating us and telling us all the time what's going on when we're right next to somebody trying to, as I see you checking your phone, right? It's like there's always something around, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of distractions out there. Diving right into
Let's dive into it.
to our topic, becoming a more active listener to be more successful in sales. We're going to explore why active listening is essential, how to master it, and the steps you can take to sharpen your listening skills. Ultimately, your expertise means nothing if you're not truly listening. That might be a little bit of a hot take, but I definitely believe it. You might have all the answers, but if you don't hear the real question, you're solving the wrong problem. So this is why it's such an important thing to actively listen. And as an insurance agent, it's easy to fall into the trap of assuming that you already know exactly what your client needs because you've been in this industry for so long. You understand the plans, you're confident in your ability, you recognize patterns just based on your experience. But if you're not actively listening, if you're just waiting for your turn to talk or promptly jumping to conclusions, you risk missing critical details that make all the difference in the world for your clients. Clients don't always articulate their real concerns up front. They might ask about costs, but what they're really worried about is being able to afford an unexpected hospital stay. They might say that they want the best plan, but what that means is they want a plan that allows them to keep seeing their current doctor. You don't necessarily know what that best means until you have a better understanding of what they're looking for and what they want. And if you don't listen carefully, you might end up selling them something that technically fits but doesn't solve their problems.
They talk about just waiting to talk, right? And as you were going through some of those things, I found myself like, oh, I want to add, I want to contribute to the conversation, but you're killing it, right? You're handling it yourself, right? I see it a lot of times at maybe a happy hour or a social event of some sort, and somebody tells a story. And I definitely see this with guys, and I'm not trying to make this a huge, gender topic where there's, two oceans, but I feel like as I've seen more with guys, it's like that everybody tries to one up each other in a story, like a fishing story by the end, somebody's caught a great white kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where I can tell in those moments, everybody's just waiting for their turn to tell their story.
Right.
Versus being that different person that's asking additional questions about that. And I feel like socially that gives us more credibility to the people we're talking with about being really interested in their story and the details than just waiting for us to tell our own.
Right.
And being like, oh, well, like, gotta say, I got a couple golf stories
Drink.
that I actively sometimes will being like, no, I don't have to tell that story, maybe because it is better. And I don't need to take away from somebody that just told their best story.
Right. Yeah. So, what do you think? Should we start by defining active listening?
I love definitions.
I know you do. That's why I added it in our notes.
Please, you take one.
Active listening is the intentional effort to fully understand the speaker. It goes beyond hearing words. It involves focus, engagement, and response. It requires tuning into both verbal and nonverbal cues, asking clarification questions, and responding in a way that demonstrates understanding.
That's fantastic. I very much underestimate the nonverbal cues in speaking, and it's interesting. Like if I'm spending the whole day on the phone, right, I could be doing nothing with my body. I could be moving all over the place. Nobody's really going to know. And then you go to a social situation and I've seen it happen, and I've coached some kids. Like for my son's robotics team, they have to not only build the robot and compete, but there's an interview portion, and we've got like 5th and 6th grade up to seniors in high school having all different types of social experience and awareness, and
Yeah.
they're trying to confidently talk about why they're doing something, and they're fidgeting, they can't look someone in the eye, and all these sorts of things, where I almost wonder if our experienced salespeople and advisors that are helping their clients, are they giving a scared face in the Diary of a CEO? Are they saying, oh, sign here, and they're giving the
Terrified face.
terrified face, and they don't, because they're
Signaling fear subconsciously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a great way to check yourself on this, is to even have just a small pocket mirror on your desk facing you when you're talking with somebody out over the phone.
Oh, good idea. Yeah.
Because you can hear those nonverbals, right? Tonality, breathing patterns, different things like that, where if you can see yourself, and hopefully you're comfortable enough talking to yourself, I think that can help, and or recording.
Yeah.
And thankfully you do all the editing for our show, which you do a phenomenal job. But the challenge I had in even starting this is, the fear of, what I sound like to myself and that kind of thing. So becoming more comfortable in those moments with your voice. I think the biggest struggle I have with, I should say, very much active listening is, if you're listening, truly listening, you can't start developing a response. So has to be a pause.
Yep.
And typically I find when, again, if it's more than 2 people for sure, it's hard to even get your chance to have the mic time, right? Thankfully I have my own mic, and I can just talk over you if I want.
That's not in the spirit of active listening, Eric.
I understand. But it's kind of trying to get that in, and I'm a bit of a slower talker, so I'll miss my opportunities. Sometimes people jump in and have an eloquent thing and knock it out. But to use some other verbal cues or nonverbal cues and saying, I'm holding my fingers up, I have 2 points to make. Number 1, and as I'm talking, I can keep that first point up, indicating to everybody nonverbally, I'm not on my second point yet.
Yeah.
Like, I got the floor, I got the mic, whatever. Let me finish this. Okay, now point 2. Or some people ask that in, I've seen in interviews. I have a 2-part question. First,
Yeah.
so, and then they can think about it. They can say, and he's not going to lose their spot in the queue of interviewers because they know they have that second follow-up already established.
Yeah.
So I want to go through why active listening is a superpower in sales. One, it builds trust with your clients. And we've said this before, where people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? If you're not listening to somebody, you can pick that up pretty quick. Or I should say, if you're not being listened to, it's pretty obvious.
Right.
And then you kind of stop listening, or you're processing, why isn't this person listening to me? But it definitely can build trust with your clients. It's going to uncover clients' needs more effectively, and I think with more detail.
Definitely.
Silence is a sales strategy. Many agents rush to fill the silence, but a well-placed pause can encourage clients to share more and shows you're genuinely considering their words. And I think I saw the best example of this, I think it was Steve Jobs. He was asked a question, and he said, let me think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
And literally took like 45 seconds before he made like a 3-sentence answer, but it was spot on.
Yeah.
No ums and ahs, thought through it. And it's interesting when you ask somebody their opinion, they say, let me think about it, and they don't answer right away. You're like, holy shit, they're really thinking
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah, really taking the time to consider it. I think silence is such an underrated strategy when it comes to active listening and sales in general because it's so uncomfortable.
Mm.
Silence is uncomfortable, but if you can be comfortable in that silence and taking pauses, it can make an impact and make a difference, I think.
You know, the only time I take a silent elevator ride is when I'm by myself, and that's not even 100%.
I like
It's
that.
so uncomfortable to get in an elevator for
Yeah.
me and not talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Even hey, how are you? But like when we travel for band, robotics, sporting events, like, hey, you guys in town for the, whatever we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh yeah. And then I ended up seeing them 3 or 4 times while we're there. And
It's so funny.
it's part of my social butterfly-ness.
I want to talk about some common barriers to active listening,
Mm-hmm.
some challenges that agents might be facing, and just to keep these in mind. So, multitasking during conversations, rushing to respond or sell instead of understanding, prejudgments or assumptions about what clients need, and then also distractions from technology or environment. These might be impacting your ability to actively listen with clients. And then another thing that might not be talked about or thought about very much is digital listening.
Ooh, what's that?
So, actively listening is not just phone calls or face to face meetings, it also applies to emails, texts, and social media, in my opinion.
I didn't think about that way, but yeah, you're right.
So, agents get very busy, obviously, during AEP. It might be tempting just to skim through messages, respond to only part of the question, miss some things, and it might just lead to a lot of client back and forth via email. So, something to just keep in mind is before replying, reread a message that one of your clients has said and ask yourself, did I acknowledge every concern that they raised and every question they asked? Simple, worth your time to take a minute and make sure that your response to your client actively
Like satisfies their original.
Yeah, that you've answered every question, that
Mhm.
you've touched on every point that they brought up.
Or
and
even
sent to
saying,
you.
I don't know number 3, I'm looking into it, let me get back to you on that.
Yeah,
At least addressing it.
at least addressing it. So just showing that you're listening via digital modes of communication. You can summarize your concerns in your response before answering too. So an example of this is, I see you're worried about your prescription costs and out-of-pocket expenses. Here's how your plan options address both. Or here's how these 2 plan options solve both of these. Here's the differentiator. But addressing and summarizing the concern that they have or the question that they're asking.
I really like that. I had a really funny story, but I'm going to have to come back to that because I don't have the details. But Jenny texted me, my wife, and I responded to what I thought I read her message. And then she responded again with a WTF because I had not read what she actually wrote and responded to a question that I came up with in my head based on some of the words in that text.
Yeah.
And we cleared it up, but I could definitely see how, or let's say you're on your 5th email in a row of what it was kind of the same question as the last 4 and being like, oh my gosh, yes, this is the and just kind of, giving it that blanket common response when maybe that isn't what they were asking.
Yeah.
And could cause them to make a mistake, make a poor choice based on your response when it wasn't actually what they were talking about. So we just want to
just
use
think
some
about
caution.
that. Yeah, and think about it from the client perspective. If you're a client and you're asking a question and we can get these emails with long-winded questions and a paragraph that has like 5 or 6 different questions inside of it or concerns or whatever it is, try reading into those a little bit more, a little bit deeper, taking the extra time, slowing down. So making sure that when you're not in person and you're not sitting in front of these people, that they still feel heard, understood, and listened to.
And aren't there, I think I've noticed in my email where you can use AI to,
Mhm.
obviously, you're going to check for grammatical and things like that, but to make it more professional.
Sometimes I will take an email, take it into ChatGPT, and say, "Can you tell me if my response answers all these questions?"
Mm,
When it's just like a long-winded thing, and I want to make sure I didn't miss anything, and it helps. It helps a lot. Or can you rephrase this in a way that's easy for the client to understand or someone to understand it? Can you break this down or rewrite it so that point out directly that I'm answering every question? And it helps.
I've got a great outlet for our listeners, Yana,
Okay.
because we do have the confessional on the
Mhm.
website.
We do.
So if you would like us to enjoy a chuckle of your well-written but not appropriate email back to a client, to ourselves, to whoever, please put it in the confessional.
Yeah, we will actively listen.
We will actively listen to it, laugh our tails off, and we may bring it up, protecting everyone's identity
Stays confidential.
in one of our calls. But I'm really excited. We've gotten some good ones.
Mm-hmm.
We're waiting to get some more so we have enough to maybe do like an episode or a short on it. So keep them coming, people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Let's look at our third segment in this talk. And again, active listening. Let's look at the components of active listening.
Definitely.
So a breakdown and the key elements. And I'm going to go through these elements and that really quick, and then we'll go back through them more in depth. So there's focus, clarity, validate, and respond thoughtfully. So let's start with focus. We're going to maintain eye contact and minimize distractions. Practice mindfulness techniques and stay present. Let's take the next one for us.
Yeah, clarity or clarify. Use open-ended questions to gather more information and avoid interrupting when the client is speaking. Asking questions to get down to what it is that they really need and reducing your distractions so you can really hear them, so you can serve them better.
I don't know if you touched on, well, you talked about digital responses, but, digital notes of using AI to not only record all of the verbal content, but you can actually have it make notes. It's listening for, potential action items that you need to take care of,
Yeah.
and adding those to it so you can be, I think, much more focused in the conversation
You can definitely be more present.
versus focused on the memorization of what was discussed.
Yeah. There are times too when I'm on a call that I will let the person know, hey, you're going to hear some keyboard clicking. That's just me taking notes.
I
You
like
know,
that.
Yeah. Going into our third key element of active listening is to validate. So paraphrase and summarize client concerns to confirm understanding. I feel like we've talked about this a little bit already. And also show empathy and acknowledge their concerns.
I love, here's a sales technique is feel, felt, found.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I might have talked about this before, but I could talk about it on every episode because it works so well. And I'll try to do my best to not butcher this. So feel, felt, found. When somebody brings up a concern, you can simply say, I understand how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Others have felt that way before. Just kind of telling them they're not the only ones.
Yeah.
And what they've found is after going through my process, they've been able to make an informed decision, and I can help them continue on year after year, making the best decision for them. That's how I work with my clients.
Eric, that's a great point, and it takes us right into our fourth and final key element of active listening, and that is to respond thoughtfully. So avoid jumping into solutions too quickly, and also respond in a way that demonstrates that you fully understood their needs. I feel like another thing that we can put in here is this silence as a strategy. So instead of rushing to fill in those gaps of conversations, use those pauses to encourage your clients to expand on their thoughts.
I think it's one of those things where if a client is really nervous about their decision or unsure, and it could be any product, right? I'm just thinking like, cars, boats, houses, what have you. And I think a lot of agents too will rush to, well, everybody's pretty much blue or green. So, oh, you've had blue before. So here you go. Or, your orange, purple, whatever the carrier is. Oh, they mentioned that carrier. So I'm just going to put them in that plan because they're comfortable, familiar, what have you. And I bet the client can feel a little rushed, right?
Yeah.
Where you get an hour-long appointment, you're talking about everything under the sun, and in the last few minutes, you pick a plan, get them to do all their signing, get them to do all their different things, and here's a packet of information, and see ya. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's just appearing like you're thinking,
Yeah.
you don't have to actually think.
Yeah.
Just take some time to show that you're thinking, that you're putting a lot of consideration into your suggestion. Or even if, some people say, I don't even suggest a plan. I show them the plans and say, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
Which way are you leaning? Here's another sales strategy is if they're not sure, say, well, how close are you? If you had to pick a plan today, and let's say we're just going to pick, you've been considering this one, how close are you to picking that plan? And, 1 to 10, and they say 7, and say, well, that's fantastic. Because most people that are already at a 7, that ends up being the right plan for them.
Right.
But we can take some time. This doesn't go into effect tomorrow.
Yeah.
But what will it take you to get to a 10?
Right.
We got a couple other segments here. You did a great job of laying this out. So let's look at some practical exercises to build active listening skills. Should just take a few minutes, and would love also some feedback from our listeners. Hopefully you've subscribed, you're on the website, you're using the confessional. Like anybody that's listening, we're all here to help each other. So if you have some things that you've done that you'd like to add in, we would love to read those and share those. So the first one's role-playing exercise. And I heard this, I don't know if anybody's a fan of Deion Sanders. He's definitely outspoken. But he was doing an interview talking about being a playmaker. And he said, you're not getting playtime, just keep making plays. You're not playing the spot you want to be playing, keep making plays, and not just during the games, but in practice. He said some of the best plays he ever made in his career were in practice.
I like that.
So you think of all of the interceptions returned for a touchdown and the flea flickers and all of the different things that he has done. Some of the best plays were never even seen by fans. That's how hard he practiced.
Yeah. I like that.
We talked about this next one a little bit, the 5-minute rule.
Yeah. Yeah. Listening without interrupting for 5 minutes during a conversation. I feel like I can do that.
I just lasted about 12 seconds and now I'm interrupting you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I feel that.
What's use voice notes to evaluate one's listening habits?
You know what, Eric? You've actually brought this one to my attention.
I think what we're talking about here is like time of possession in a game, which is, I'll explain.
Yeah, I need
So
some explanation.
time of possession in a football game is how much time do you have the ball, like when you're on offense. Let's say you have the ball 75% of the time. So you keep making first downs, you keep taking time off the clock, and you have the ball more than the defense has the ball. Your odds of winning have gone up because you're on offense.
Okay.
And you have a potential to score when you're on offense. So we talk about time of possession in a conversation and looking back or listening back to some of your meetings of saying, how many times did I ask them a question? They answered for 2 or 3 seconds, and then I was on jabbering on for 5 minutes again.
Yeah. Listen back to some of your appointments. Listen to how much you talk and how much your clients listen. Listen to how much your clients talk and you listen. And listen to those appointments and see what you can improve on.
Nice. I like it.
We've talked a lot about strategies, some key elements of active listening. here are some things that you can do to add and integrate active listening into your daily routine. So the first is start sales calls with an intentional focus. Just take some time, take some deep breaths, and focus intentionally on your calls or appointments.
That's a great point, Yana. I just want to add, like, having an agenda for a meeting, and I like leaving maybe the first or 2 to 3 lines blank, and then you start your agenda as the advisor and saying, these are the things I want to cover today. But more importantly, before we did our pleasantries and things like that, why are you here today? And you grab your pen and you're going to write that in the first line.
Oh, I like that.
Right? And saying, or before you leave today, what question did you want answered? We want to write that down first. We might not get to it till the end, because you can say, or I can cover that right now
Yeah.
and get that out of the way. No, you don't owe me anything.
Right.
Right? Maybe they were worried about that, or they, who knows what they're going to say. But if they come there with something on their mind and don't get it answered,
Yeah.
do you think they're going to want to come back?
It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why did
I like that a lot.
we forgot to ask her about blah, blah, whatever. It's like, no, we want ultimately,
You're there to serve them.
ultimately we are there for our clients.
Yep.
But I think also having an agenda, they will naturally cut themselves off of telling that 5th grandkid story.
Yeah.
And so we can, and tell them I have an hour or I have 45 minutes or
Yeah.
whatever your timetable is. I'd love to get through this and learn more about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love having that idea of having the blank spots of what questions do you have before we even start.
Mm-hmm.
The next is reflect on conversations post meeting. So what worked? What can you improve on? Just take 5 minutes after your meeting or so, and usually, hopefully, you're taking notes for every meeting and updating your CRM and everything like that. So take some time and just reflect. What went well? What worked here? And take note. Continue to do the things that work and improve on the things that didn't.
It's kind of like watching game film.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else that you can do is you can set daily listening goals. So, for example, practice 1 listening technique per call. I know that we mentioned some, but there are lots out there that you can research and start implementing. And if you do that, please let us know, because we want to know what they are. And then we are always going to encourage you to seek feedback from your clients and peers. Take some time. Maybe it's just going out to coffee or something with another agent, and with the intention of, I really want to practice my active listening. Make a little tally of every time I interrupt you. Or can you tell me how you feel when I'm talking to you? Or can you tell me if my body language is weird or something like that? You never know. Ask for some reflection and feedback from clients, from peers, etc. And we're just always going to encourage you to do that.
I think what's really hard is, and I've said this, I've done webinars, doing this podcast, and I think when we first started and the first episode dropped, I asked Corey, I said, did you listen to it? He's like, yeah, man, great job. I go, don't bullshit a bullshitter. I go, I don't need that. I'm trying to be better.
Yeah.
What?
I want you to be honest with
Yeah, and if you thought it was great, that's great. I do appreciate that, because, we do put our hearts and souls into this and want it to be helpful. But in those moments of improvement, we need to really look at the uncomfortable things and bring those up. And to make somebody better, you have to tell them they're not doing great at something, which doesn't sound friendly, doesn't feel friendly.
Yeah.
But to be friendly, and it's just your opinion.
Yeah.
And
you're asking these people for it.
Yeah.
And so remember that too. Don't get mad at what they say. But
and don't, yeah. So
if
don't,
you're asking for feedback and it's negative, take it with gratitude. Don't get mad at them for it.
yeah. Or maybe if you don't like somebody's opinion on things, don't ask them. You're just kind of setting yourself up.
Yeah.
At the same time, you don't want a yes man or woman to just tell you how amazing you are.
Ask people you trust and
Yeah.
stuff. So this last one is my favorite. So, Eric, you probably don't know this about me, but I'm actually a certified meditation teacher.
Oh,
Yeah. It has changed my life. So, love meditation. It can make you more productive, etc. But adding a little mindfulness into your daily routine can help you so much. One of the biggest barriers to active listening is a rushed or distracted mind. We, especially during AEP, jump from one call to the next. We're multitasking, focusing on what we're going to say next instead of truly listening, etc. But a simple way that we can counter this is a little quick meditation or mindfulness exercise before your calls or appointments. I'm calling this the little 2-minute reset. So before your next conversation, just take 2 minutes to reset and refocus. So what you can do is just close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, and then exhale for 4. Set an intention and say to yourself, I'm going to focus on this client and their needs. I will listen before I respond. Whatever makes sense for you, whatever you're working on, whatever you want to focus on. You can do a quick body scan, so release any tension in your shoulders, in your jaw, on your hands. Just kind of relax for a minute. And then just silence the mental noise for a little bit. If thoughts or other tasks creep in, just gently bring your attention back to the present moment, back to your breath. A good way to do this is to count your breathing. So, for your 4 counts, that just helps you focus. And then you can, once you're feeling all relaxed, present, and focused, you can open your eyes and begin your call with full presence or welcome your client in. It's a small little habit that helps you slow down, stay present, and listen. It also makes you more patient, thoughtful, and intentional in your responses, which translates to stronger client relationships and ultimately better sales outcomes.
that's amazing. I've heard very similar things. Tony Robbins is a great one about, the power stance, chest out, hands back, head up.
Yep.
Breathing, changing your breath pattern to either calm or excite yourself. I've always thought about this kind of stuff like before an interview, before a test,
Yep.
before going on stage, those types of things. But why not do it all the time, right? That, and you say 2 minutes, the 4 count breathing, I call it the box.
Yep.
So
Box breathing for
you
sure.
close your eyes and imagine the line going around the box, and you're holding and breathing out. Also helps me remember what to do at what point. But it's amazing how much that physically changes your focus. And I think about this too. We just got, we spent a little time around Disney. I didn't go, but having that stage presence, let's say your 10 o'clock meeting just fired you for whatever reason, good, bad, or indifferent, but you're upset about it. And now your 11 o'clock prospects coming in or longtime client, like, what is your mental state going into that meeting? Are you still frustrated about the past one and are like, acting weird because you don't want to lose another client?
Yeah.
And then you do because you were acting weird? Or do you do a reset?
Yeah.
And I've done this with my son, Roman, if you're listening, finally called you out on the podcast, is there'll be times when he's having a really rough morning. And I said, Bud, come over here. I said, you want to reset? And we have like a 5-second hug.
Yeah.
And I'm like, buddy, it's going to be okay. And whatever's happened so far this morning, it's over and we can move on.
Yeah.
And he typically feels better.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. There's a lot of power in taking 2 minutes out of your day to reset, recenter, and keep it moving. Well, I feel like we've talked about a lot of things in this episode, but just want to recap, the why, the how, the what of active listening. Why active listening matters is it's a superpower in sales. It can be the difference between closing a deal or losing a client. Builds trust and stronger relationships, making your clients feel truly heard and understood. It helps uncover the real needs and concerns of your clients, so leading to better plan recommendations and ultimately a better experience for your clients. And also increases client retention and referrals. People value agents who genuinely listen to them. I think as people in general, we always value people who listen to us.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you feel unheard, you'll find somebody else that does hear you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the how to practice active listening. Be fully present, avoid your distractions, multitasking, or thinking about your next response. Use silence as a strategy. Pause before a client speaks to encourage them to share more and to also gather your own thoughts. Clarify and summarize, so paraphrase your client concerns. Make sure that you understand them correctly, because if you're not, then you're not really helping them. Ask open-ended questions. Encourage deeper conversation instead of simple yes or no answers.
And sometimes I think if you do get a yes or no and you were looking for more, just pause in the they'll fill it up. They'll
Just let
fill up
'em,
that
yeah.
silence, right? Say,
Absolutely.
just tell me more.
Yeah.
You said yes pretty quick, but tell me, what are you really feeling about this answer?
For sure. And then this next one, practice digital listening. So read every message thoroughly and respond thoughtfully to all concerns that are brought to your attention. And then this last one, use mindfulness techniques like the 2-minute reset. That's going to help you slow down and listen intentionally. We will release a 2-minute reset for you to save and listen to however many times you want.
That's going to be our most played
I
episode.
hope it is. I really hope it is.
All right, let's look at what to do next, Yana.
Yeah, so make active listening a daily habit. Start your calls with focus, reflect on conversations, and set listening goals for yourself. We can always be improving on these things. Try the 5-minute rule. Let clients speak without interruption for 5 minutes to practice patience and just see what happens there.
And
See how long you can last.
Yeah, I think you can ask questions. You don't have to sit there in silence, but before making statements or trying to one up their story, tell me more. What else have you done? And I think it helps to prompt people. What's going really well in your life, right? Like,
Yeah.
we don't have to focus about, the negative.
Yeah, absolutely. And use feedback as a growth tool. So ask your clients or peers or colleagues for input on your listening skills. And don't get mad at them if they tell you something you don't want to hear. And then this last one of what to do next is apply active listening to every interaction, whether it's in person, on the phone, or through email or text.
The text one is one that I really need to work on. Like, literally just read the words that are there. Don't read into it and respond, appropriately. I've got a challenge for the listeners.
Go for it.
Okay, this week, I want you to choose one active listening skill to focus on in every client conversation. Notice the difference in the responses, engagement, and overall quality of your interaction. So that's a challenge just for yourself. I'd like to extend that challenge to, once you've done it or you've done it multiple times throughout the week, is just give us some sort of feedback. It can be in the confessional, it can be just on the Facebook page, wherever you want to. You could send it to us individually. Just give us some sort of feedback, and most of our listeners have been phenomenal on giving us feedback. But we want to hear more, because the work that we're doing here is always focused on helping our agents and all the agents out there to be better, enjoy their jobs more, help more people. That's what we're really trying to do.
Absolutely. So if you got any value from this, subscribe to Agents Confidential and tell your friends.
Until next time.
Until next time.